Okay, this is my Walther PPQ. Came with 3 clips, or probably didn't. I think I actually had to buy another one to make 3. Has a silencer co, Spectre 2 suppressor on it. It's got the nut right there that goes, that's a metal shroud. That's not really the barrel. You see there's a barrel under that metal shroud, and then that nut kind of clamps it all together. Sometimes when you try to take the suppressor off, or most of the time the nut there will try to come off and your barrel wants to fall apart. This gun's not reliable. The magazines don't quite line up with the bore, and so the bullet's always trying to come forward and strike the side of the chamber, then go in rather than use the feed lips, and so I'll probably have to send it back. It's not real critical of first X number of rounds, but after about 50 or so it can be a problem. I polished it a little bit in there, just a touch, and that helped a bit, but I think maybe something in the casting and the handle is pushing the magazine to the right when it needs to actually be tilted to the left a little bit. I'm using, let me find what I have. I'll try this Federal first. This Federal bulk stuff is pretty decent ammo. It seems to be coming down in price. I mean, if Hillary gets in, there might, I don't know. I don't know if that has much to do with pricing or etc., but there's been so much ammo and so forth has been sold in guns since Obama came along that if you're hoarding it and you want to sell it, I mean, Hillary might try to just ban it outright. So anyhow, this should be, if it functions, movie quiet kind of thing. This is nearly full size, unlike the SR22 or the Walther P22. Probably my favorite right now is the Ruger SR22. This would be my favorite. It has an excellent trigger, but it's not reliable right now. It comes apart real easy. But it's nearly full size, so it's very close to the other Walther PPQs. I don't have the Gen 1, the M1, but I have all the other models that they make. My favorite is probably the, I have the Navy version, but then it in 40 cal. But I also have the 45 ACP, and that's kind of like an oh my god kind of gun to shoot. It's really easy to shoot well, super light trigger on it. This one actually has a hammer in it, I think I recall taking apart, it has a hammer in it, so it's not like the striker fired polymer guns, but the trigger on this is pretty doggone good. So let's see, let's shoot in some dirt a couple of times. It sounds like an anemic pellet gun. It really does. It doesn't sound like maybe a nail gun. You're not actually hitting wood with it. You've pulled back the safety release and you're pulling the trigger on your nail gun, and it's just, but it's a really wimpy nail gun. That's kind of what it sounds like. These, if I recall correctly, I wasn't paying attention to the camera at all there. I hope I was showing you guys something. If I recall correctly, these hold 12 rounds in that magazine. That's kind of nice. Getting a little dirty in there, not too bad yet. Kind of fun, nice and quiet. More magazine. Starting to get blacker and blacker in there. Controls for the slide release are on both sides. Regular magazine, American type magazine release. Those are mufflers down there that some redneck brought along with them. So you go to my strong hand, alright. More crap for the U.S. or actually that's the Oregon Forestry Department to haul out of here. Shooting a 300 blackout earlier today, trying to get some 150 grain subsonic loads to work with 1680 powder. I'm not having as good results as what I've seen on YouTube, but anyhow, I have to load them weaker, I guess. Sonic crack. So anyhow, if you're fortunate yours, the magazine doesn't point a little bit to the right, I'll play with it some more, put in the notes if I'm continue to have jamming. I mean, I didn't have any so far, but it's only 3 clips in. But usually this thing has a pretty big problem, and it is much better since I did a little bit of my home polishing in there. Just go slow and you'll be fine. But today this thing's working so far as much as you can expect. But my recollection from past times is that you put more than say 50 rounds through it and it starts having issues. It's just not happy. Then you try a different ammo in the same story. So anyhow, Walther PPQ. Enough people say they like it, so that I'm assuming that this is could be just a little bit, the casting's a little bit torqued in the handle or something, so it's holding the magazine to the right. If you like torque the bottom off with 2 hands, if you kind of twist and pull on the magazine at the handle where the bullet would be pointing into the chamber, it does vary it a little bit. So I'm thinking it'd be a little bit better if there was just a little bit of something. Maybe they at the factory will put a little bit of a wedge in there, like an epoxy wedge or something, to push the magazine to the left. Or maybe I'll put a couple more 100 more rounds through it and it'll work fine. But a lot of times when it jams, you'll see the bullet is smacked right into the side of the chamber and stopped. And then from the way the bullet's coming out of the magazine, it's just obvious that, yeah, cut it out. Just obvious that the magazine is guiding the cartridge to the right of the chamber, and that's your problem. Get your suppressor while you can. They are pretty cool. But if you don't care about the noise, they're not worth the bother either. So it's just if you want to be shooting quiet, like if you had a neighbor or something, this won't really bother too much. This rock quarry, there's a lot of ricochet and so forth going on. So, but if you're like in the forest, no one would ever know you're even firing this thing, so you wouldn't be bothering your neighbors or nothing. So, okay, so earlier I filmed a little video on this thing in Walther PPQ 22, and kind of a little bit of doom and gloom because I haven't had much luck with it functioning reliably. And I went through today probably 250 rounds of this, the Federal stuff, which I really like, the bulk. That's the cheap Federal bulk, non-plated. Not a single function with it. And then I loaded up some of these Remington. I'm not sure which one this is, but this is a 36 grain. Those were the 40 grainers, but this is a 36 grain. And fired once, jammed, failure to feed, stovepiped into the top of the chamber, popped it back down, cycled it, fired that, did it 2 more times, and then for the last about 8 clips worth, haven't had a single problem. So the failure was the cartridge would feed and get stuck at the top of the chamber. And these are the 36 grainers. But anyway, I'm very happy with it because it did that for the first 3-4 rounds, and then it Has works fine since. Probably, who knows, 10 or 12 clips worth through it. These are a little more peppier. This isn't such a wimpy pellet gun sound. But it is cycling it, so maybe I've hit some magical break-in period with it. I'm probably pushing 1,000 cartridge or rounds through this thing by now. What are we looking at? Oh. You can see it's pretty black in there. But it's doing its thing. The if you shoot enough with the suppressor, you'll get that kind of like that hot. I don't know if you can see it. You'll get kind of a hot, just like what you see when you're looking at a hot pavement along the top of a road. So today, the PPQ is working excellent as far as I'm concerned. Where we're looking. Side shots. That's probably it for today. Got the little wrench here. That's because once it cools off a bit, it probably won't come off. But when I'm trying to unscrew the suppressor from the barrel nut or whatever they call it, for sure it's gonna loosen the barrel nut from the barrel and the barrel sleeve itself. So use that to beat that out. And let's see. Silencer shop. Set this thing along to hold the thing, and you really need it because it gets like, oops, it gets super hot. One day you'll accidentally try to pick the suppressor up when it's hot, and it is hot. In fact, you can see plenty of videos on YouTube where they shoot them until they're red hot. So that's how you do it. Well, today the thing worked pretty doggone well, but I have no idea why the first 4 rounds on that first clip with this Remington stuff did what it did. But the gun settled down nicely. Of course, whether these are actually traveling fast enough for that hollow point to mean anything, I'm not so sure about. You're probably better off with the suppressed 22, always using 40 grain and forgetting the hollow point, but I could be wrong. But for sure, hollow points were the bullets that were typically, the cartridges that were typically getting caught up on the lip on this. And there were a couple outings where you could barely get through a box of anything. It was very depressing. So I'll keep going with this thing. I did better today. Maybe it'll become my favorite. If it stays this reliable, I'll like it better than the SR22 just because it's more full size, more like the other PPQs for practice.